Welcome to today's episode where I'm speaking with Stuart Abel about motor neuron disease and his journey through ALS diagnosis. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, Stuart?
I'm all right. Not too bad, although this chair's putting pressure on my neck and it's a bit of pain, but it's all good.
We like to challenge people in here.
It's all right. My whole life's a challenge at the moment, so it's cool.
Well, I'd like to hear more about it. Very interested to chat with you today, talking about your experience of where you've been from around 2 to 3 years ago to currently where you are, your journey, what's kind of led you to this point, sort of testing procedures you've been through, therapy, mainstream as well as sort of holistic therapies, therapeutics. Just chat me a wee bit through that.
Cool. Well, I'll start in the beginning. So I've been trying to work out a timeline for the last wee while, and it's one of two. About 5 years ago, I started noticing a strange tightness in my neck, and it can only be described as strange, like a delay in the muscle. So when I moved my neck in a certain way and then turned it back, the muscle would move after the movement. And there's a possibility that could have been the very start. If it was, then it's been 5 years. What I call the noticeable symptoms started in September 2021, and it was after a very severe bout of COVID. I was really, really ill for pretty much 2 weeks, and about 2 weeks after. About 2 weeks after it, I was doing a shift in Sanctuary and escorting a guy out with no problems really, and he turned around and took a swing at me, and my background's in Thai boxing, so I slipped the punch and I went to restrain him, and as I went to restrain him, my right arm fell at my side and I couldn't move it for just a few seconds. But it was completely immobile, and I thought at the time, I'm like, oof, that could have been dodgy. But again, later on that night, I went to take a bottle off a guy, and my right arm, again, never engaged. So I gave up Stuart that night. That wasn't my real job. That was just, so I didn't go partying at the weekend, really.
Right, so Sanctuary's a club or a bar?
Yeah, Sanctuary's a nightclub in the West End.
Right.
It's shut down now. So that week I was out. I used to own a blind company, and no point plugging it because it's not there anymore. But I was putting a blind up for a customer in Hamilton, and I dropped it 10 foot at the top of a 10-foot ladder, trying to put the blind in the bracket. And I let it go. And I couldn't hold on to it. And luckily the guy that owned the house caught it. And when I went back down the ladder, went to pick the blind up, and I couldn't lift it. And I was very strong, for my size especially. I was probably ridiculously strong, but I wasn't a big guy. And but I couldn't lift this blind up. So I had to ask a customer to go and put it up his cell. And from that point, it just gradually got worse and worse and worse. But so shortly after that incident, I went to the doctor, obviously with my concerns, and I got referred to neurology at the QE. And a guy, I'm not saying the doctor's names, but a young consultant told me that I had dystonia, which it's a pretty shitty condition, but it's not degenerative. It doesn't tend to get worse, and especially not like this. So I'd done a little bit of research, and I figured I can deal with that. And so I just muddled through and kept going. The company was getting really busy, but as I was getting busier, things were getting worse. And it was confusing because obviously I've had this diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, well, this isn't meant to get worse. What the hell's happening here? So about 6 months on, I had another neurology referral. And I went back and I'd said to them, I said, like, whatever this is, I said, it's getting worse. And I took my T-shirt off and I had what's called fascillations, or fasciculations, which is basically involuntary muscle twitching all over my arms, my shoulders, my chest, and my back. And at that point, the neurologist I spoke to then, a different guy, he told me it was functional and that I had functional neurological disorder, FND. So again, I'm a bit of a geek, and I went away and I researched the condition, and I figured it's pretty shy. It's not going to be fun, but I can adapt and I'll learn to live with it, I'll deal with it, because it's not a life-threatening condition. Although it can have implications, but that's not like degenerative. So again, I went away quite, I wouldn't say happy, but content with the diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Didn't know any better. I'm putting my trust in doctors at the time. And then again, things were steadily getting worse and worse and worse. I was getting weaker. I couldn't do simple tasks like measure a window. You know, I couldn't hold my measuring tape and stretch across, or even like at one point, I was trying to lift my arm above my head, and I can't do that. I can't do it anymore at all. I can only lift my arms to like that height. Mm-hmm. And even then, it's very difficult. So where was I? So I went back to neurology, and again took my T-shirt off. And the reason I was back at neurology at that point actually was I skipped a bit. I was walking past the mirror in my bedroom, and I noticed that I had a clear view of the bone in my shoulder, like the shoulder joint, and I could see it moving. And I had very broad, thick shoulders, and I'm a typical guy. I never pay attention. Mm-hmm. And that way, the light caught my shoulder, and I just went, "What the hell?" You know, it's like I've not got any shoulders left. So I phoned neurology that day, and I was like, "I need to see you." He said, "Yeah, we'll get you in a few months." And I went, "No," I said, "I need to see you yesterday." I said, "This is urgent." So I got an appointment for the next day. I went in, I sat down, and when I took my top off, the doctor's reaction was, "Oh, this isn't normal." Mm-hmm. And I went, "No, Sherlock, I'm not a doctor, and I know it's not normal." So he admitted me. I got admitted to the QE for 3 weeks on the 4th of November 2022. So this is from the start of the symptoms to being admitted to the hospital was about 14 months. 14 months wasted in my eyes. So what was I going to say there?
So you were in the hospital for 3 weeks?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I got admitted for 3 weeks. So on the 6th day, mm-hmm. November the 10th, after a multitude of tests, I get told I had a working diagnosis of possible motor neuron disease.
So what does that mean, a working diagnosis?
A working diagnosis basically means that they think it might be, but they're not sure. But that was the working diagnosis.
And that was the third diagnosis? That was
the third diagnosis, yeah. So, again, I know exactly what it is. And I was a big metalhead when I was young, and one of my favourite guitar players was diagnosed with ALS at the height of his fame. He was only 22. A guy called Jason Becker, and he's still alive, believe it or not. He's about 32 or 33 years in.
Wow!
But he's completely paralysed.
But from what I had kind of read, usually there's around a 2 to 5 year of sort of...
typical prognosis is I mean, I've got two friends, two guys that I met through one I met in hospital and one I met through the community, and they're both dead.
And how long ago was that then that they were diagnosed?
Colin was last year. He was a friend that I met in hospital.
Right.
And the other boy, Danny, I went to see him at his house. Just to really, again, just to try and reassure people that doctors aren't always right. But I think he was just too far gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because he passed away, must have been about 6 weeks old now. You know, so
right.
Sad times, because symptom-wise, if I don't find an answer, that's where this is heading.
Yeah.
You know, so I know that I don't have a choice. I need to find the answer.
And I think, of course, the way you're saying about obviously these guys, it was maybe too far on for them to be sort of prolonging their life effectively. But I think exactly what you're saying about people trusting in doctors and in diagnoses, that they've probably just taken the first diagnosis they were given and went with it rather than trying to find other options or other methods of trying to get therapy or maybe prolonging the vitality of their health.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Most people, especially in this country, we're brought up to listen to your doctor, trust your doctor knows best. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to things like diagnosis and recognising symptoms, I would say, well, I would normally say they're not that far out, but they got it wrong twice and cost me essentially 15 months, because I started researching this condition the minute I was diagnosed. Mm-hmm. You know, as soon as I left that room, I went straight on my iPad, and I was relentless. You know, I'm determined to find something, and it's taken me a long time. I mean, I spend time every day researching this, whether it's YouTube videos, tutorials, stuff that I find online, and then obviously I always try and find information to back that up. Mm-hmm. But
so at that stage, obviously, when you had been told about it was a working diagnosis then of motor neuron disease.
Yeah, well, at that point, I just thought, well, you've already got it wrong twice, so
why should you believe them?
Probably got it wrong again.
Mm-hmm. But what was the sort of process then for them to determine what your sort of symptoms would be to suggest it would be that? What kind of test did they do at that point?
It's a multitude of physical examination, blood tests, EMG, which is it's like an electrical. I forgot the name.
It's like nerve conduction or muscle
nerve
conduction.
Yep, exactly that. They basically fire electricity into the muscle through the nerve and see how long the signal takes to get there. Mm-hmm. It's quite unpleasant. And I think I had 4 or 5 MRIs of different types.
Right.
And that was they eliminated a lot of possibilities. But the one thing I know now, which I find quite concerning, is that they tested me for, well, standard Lyme disease in hospital. And they tested me twice, and twice it came back negative. So right. As I was finding information out, I was referring back I've got a copy of everything, and I was referring back to that thinking, well, I don't have that, so that's fine. And then I came across a guy from America called Alfred Miller. He's a doctor. And Alfred Miller stated that standard testing, which is the ELISA or the Western blot test, is less than 50% reliable. And I thought, I wonder what kind of test I had. And it turns out NHS used that testing method, and it only picks up an acute bacterial infection, not chronic. So once the infection becomes chronic, it's undetectable unless you use a very advanced testing method. So when I found that out, I was like, all right, okay, maybe I should find a lab that can do it, and I did. So I had to do it all by post at a lab in California, and they specialise in it, and the test came back positive. Not only for one type, but for 3 types of that bacteria. And I'm saying bacteria, It's not a bacteria in the traditional sense. It's a spirochete.
Mm-hmm.
And it's classed as, and people will probably think I'm mental. It's an intelligent spirochete. And it also has the potential to be symbiotic.
Yes.
Which means it can hide within another. It's a parasite.
Yeah.
And it can hide within another parasite. So I get a bit choked up sometimes. And so I'm taking in all this information thinking, you know, this is a bit out there, and I don't know about this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I took all of the information to my consultant, and he simply told me what I was trying to tell him, that it's not Lyme disease. I don't have Lyme disease. I've got a chronic Borrelia infection, and he told me he wasn't interested, which I found again. I was like, what the hell am I meant to do? So they gave me a referral again to an infectious disease doctor. And again, I'm at a level at the moment where I'm suffering from a neurodegenerative disease, and they're referring me to an ID doctor. And you're just like, hell are you doing? So I took the appointment, and I went and I met this doctor, and the guy was nice enough, Tanzanian guy. And what he said to me at the start of the appointment was, I'm very open-minded. And I went, brilliant, you're going to have to be. And I started to run through everything. And he brought my results from the NHS up in the computer. And he said, you don't have it. And I said, well, and I pulled out a 35-page report from Vibrant Labs. And I handed him that. And I said, I think you'll find I do. So we had a bit of a chat. And he explained that the NHS test only picks up what's known as an IgM infection.
Yes. And
my results from Vibrant all picked up an IgG infection. Mm-hmm. So that's why they're saying it's negative.
Yeah, because it's not a current, it's an ongoing, persistent.
Well, it's been there, probably lying dormant for a long time. And there's a chance something's happened. It could have been COVID, it could have been something before that. But something's happened to basically reignite that infection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to trigger it off.
And it's became active.
Mm-hmm. And that's the part of the reading that is quite frustrating, actually, because there is no rhyme nor reason for it. It can be anything attributable to the disorder, and it can be environmental. It can be, I think there's a small percentage is inherited.
Well, less than 10% genetic.
Yeah. So how would you, obviously, did they do the genetic tests for you? Yeah. And that came back.
I don't have a genetic factor. It's what they call sporadic.
Right.
Which means that they don't know what's causing it.
Mm-hmm.
So the doctor, I've spoken to a couple of doctors in America, and these guys they've left their field of expertise and they're focused on this subject now. And the reason being is that both of them had family members that with an ALS diagnosis that were dying essentially. And a guy called Vincent Tidone, very, very intelligent guy, a retired orthopaedic surgeon. So he's not some guy that was, chancered his arm. He's a medical professional. Redirected his research, and he found that, this is after 5 or 6 years, he found that everybody he spoke to and had tested for a Borrelia infection, chronic Borrelia infection, was testing positive, and they all had ALS. Mm. So his daughter, a girl called Diana, or a woman called Diana, they were pioneering a protocol at the time, which they named after her, the Diana protocol. And they treated the Borrelia infection. And after they successfully treated the Borrelia infection, which took a long time, took about a year, and but once they knew the infection was eradicated, they started to closely monitor her ALS progression, and it stopped, completely stopped. But the amount of damage that disease done was It was frightening. She couldn't talk properly. Our muscles were so badly atrophied that it was very hard to regenerate anything. But over the last 10 years, she's improved.
So she's still alive then?
She's still alive. She's improving every year.
Wow.
She's got trainers, physios. Mm-hmm. I mean, her dad's a doctor in America.
Yeah, I think it's as long as you can afford to pay for these things. But what kind of procedures were they doing then? Was she taking making any lifestyle or dietary changes, or was she on
eating clean?
Clean, right?
I mean, at the moment, I'm following a almost ketogenic diet. Not completely keto because I'm not super strict, but I don't eat processed food. Very rarely do I have a treat. Sometimes I'll have a treat, but not very often. And I was a big chocoholic. I've cut that out. No more Twixes and Snickers.
Oh, no.
No, it's brutal. Everything I used to love, like a piece of nugget, like potato scones are out the window. Normal bread out the window. Mm-hmm. Although I will have like the odd slice of sourdough. But my diet's become quite restricted. I've lost a lot of weight. Anybody who's seen the previous podcast, they'll notice a difference in my speech and my mannerisms. Right. But it's because of my neck. My neck's really badly affected, and this just won't help me.
I know. I was just going to say that.
The headrest kind of pushes my head forward, and I'm like, ah. So it's been an eventful year. I've lost about 10 kilo in the last year. Oh, God. So I was about 70 kilo when the boys interviewed me last year. Mm-hmm. This morning I was 60.7. And it's not a lot of it's fat. Mm-hmm. And losing fat is good. Mm-hmm. Although anybody with MND or ALS, your nutritionist or your doctors will tell you to gain weight. Don't gain weight because your muscles become weaker. Yeah. They can't carry the weight. Yeah. I've dropped 10 kilo, so God knows where I'd be right now if I was still 70, maybe 75 kilo. Mm-hmm. I probably wouldn't be able to walk. Because, you've seen how bad I was coming up the stairs to get in here.
I know, and I feel really bad about that. I need to apologise because
it's basically
made you climb 5 sets of stairs.
They've taken away a lot of the disabled parking in Glasgow city centre. And where I had to park, I had what would probably normally be less than 5-minute walk. It took me over 10. And then by the time I got here, my legs were shot. So... because the muscles, again, there's no energy getting to the cell. Mm-hmm. If the cells aren't getting energised, then the signals are getting broken down and the muscles aren't operating properly. Yeah,
so it's like a misfire between the neurotransmitter to the muscle then to give it that electrical charge.
Pretty much. Yeah. There's no signal really. And this is where I'm getting confused, because obviously I speak to a lot of people with this condition, and at different stages, and I ask them all about their symptoms and progression and the way that they're affected. And I've only found one person who can relate to the way that my symptoms affect me, because her symptoms affect her in a very similar way, where the neck tightness, stiffness and weakness all rolled into one. But I can't hold my head up. Most people with this illness, if you start to get what they call head drop, you can't hold your head up at all.
And does that affect the breathing then, if the windpipe in the...
No, really.
No.
But the point is that I can do it. Mm-hmm. It's an effort. If I lie flat on my back, I can't lift my head up. But if I lie on my side or my front, I don't have an issue. Mm-hmm. Although it's uncomfortable. But again, a lot of people, and most of them, talk about pain. I don't have any pain at all.
Right, okay. Well, that's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit of discomfort, not pain. You know, I'm not sitting going, oh my God, this is agony. I'm usually sitting going, this is a bit annoying. And I need to adjust my headrest. And adjusting my headrest takes it away.
Yeah.
So it's, again, my symptoms aren't typical at all. The atrophy, the weakness, yeah, definitely. But the way that it's moving, and again, like my legs are probably half the size they used to be. I can still function, stand up, walk about. You know, I certainly can't run though.
And do you feel that the sort of eating more ketogenic then, do you think that that's helping the muscles?
I don't think it's helping the muscles.
No.
I think it's reducing toxicity by getting rid of a lot of fat.
Yeah, because fat obviously holds on and facilitates, doesn't it, toxins?
Yeah, that's right. Toxins tend to live in fat. So by removing fat, you're essentially going to be healthier. Yeah. So, and I've you've probably seen my face if you look at the old video, I've lost a lot of fat. But in losing a lot of fat, I've also lost muscle as well. Yeah, it's a lot. So obviously you've changed your diet, you're kind of clean eating. Or have you introduced more sort of natural supplements? Or I know that you'd mentioned before to me about tinctures you were taking. Take my supplement tray. Well, you know the boxes for holding different sizes of screws and fixtures. I've got one of them, and it's full of different capsules. I've changed it up a bit. Last year it was about 48 a day. Now I think it's about 24 tablets a day. I'm also not tablets because it's not drugs. It's all supplements. So things like gut health supplements like saccharocyte boulardii, vitamin K2, D3, all that. Just it's not running the mill, so it's all good quality, but it's just your standard vitamins really and supplements. So nothing mega special there. Yeah, I'd heard about the gut and the significance of Borrelia. It can attack the gut. Borrelia doesn't attack the gut. Borrelia attacks either your brain, your spinal column, or your nervous system, or all three, depending where it decides to embed itself. So there's research which again done in the States, which suggests that a chronic Borrelia infection, once it crosses the blood-brain barrier, that if it invades a certain part of the brain, the patient will develop a fast-progressing Alzheimer's. That was confirmed by a guy who donated his brain to research, and the Alzheimer's came out of nowhere, and the doctors couldn't, there was no explanation basically. And he said, when I die, he said, dissect my brain, find out what's caused this. His brain was riddled, or one section of the brain was riddled with live Borrelia. Oh my God. So that kind of, it suggests that the Borrelia definitely caused it. Another one is a fast progressing form of MS. I know a guy down south who, he's 34, maybe 35, and he's been told he's got advanced MS. How can he have advanced MS? He's only in his 30s. But he used to work in the wind turbines up north, and basically working in tick country. He told me he was being bitten by ticks on a daily basis, and then he went home. He went back down south and started to feel unwell, and he was tested, and it was all coming back negative. And then went to a lab in Germany called Armin Labs, and all came back positive. Because is there not 3 different variations of Borrelia? There's about 300 or 400. Is there? Yeah. Right. But there's a lot of main strains, and then there's different strains within that. Right. So they normally, there's 3 of them or 4 of them that are like widely recognised. Right. Okay. There's so many. It's And they're discovering new strains all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But so this guy, he tested positive. But his parents and his family are all focused on listening to your doctor knows best. And his neurologist told him that he has advanced MS and they're trying to treat him for MS. And he doesn't have MS, he's got a chronic Borrelia infection that's causing the illness.
My God. So I think just because of the sort of reading that I was doing on it, and I watched a couple of videos as well on sort of the microbiology of Borrelia, and they'd mentioned three specific ones, and I don't know if that's just because that's what they test for and as a standard, but if you're saying obviously there's 300 or 400 different variations of them.
Well, in the standard test, they test for the run-of-the-mill strain of Borrelia is Borrelia burgdorferi, and that was discovered by the scientist who discovered Lyme disease. And the other widely known ones are, I think it's Alfrezi. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it.
Jalfrezi.
I know, correctly.
Sorry.
And Guarini. And there's a new strain which is becoming more and more prevalent, which is Maritima. And I don't know what the relation to that and water is, but the last time I was bitten by a tick, I pulled out my leg in Loch Lomond. I was pulling a jet ski in. That was about 5 years ago. So around about the time that my neck problems started, I actually pulled out of my leg. Because I remember looking down going, what the hell's that? And it looked like a little black ball. And I grabbed it with my nails and I pulled it out. And I never really felt anything. And then I picked it away. And it was my mate that was with me said, is that a tick? And I went, I don't know.
And did you have any sort of the following symptoms then? No. You know, like the bullseye, the rash?
No mark, no rash, no nothing.
No.
But most people don't. It's kind of an accepted standard that if you get it, then you're going to get Lyme. But also the tick or whatever bites you has to be infected by that bacteria.
Yeah.
If it's not infected, it doesn't matter.
So do you think then that there would be the sort of the tick species is evolving then?
Oh, it's 100%.
Yeah, and that's maybe where the different strains are coming in.
I think it's more a case of the bacteria are evolving.
Yeah.
I mean, I say these bacteria, they're intelligent, which is, and when I first started reading this, I thought, it's like something at a sci-fi movie. I was like, intelligent bacteria behave yourself. And a good way of looking at it is closely related to syphilis.
Right.
Everybody knows what syphilis is. Syphilis affects the brain. It's a neurodegenerative bacterial infection. And if you imagine syphilis and Borrelia being cousins, syphilis is like the simple cousin, the retarded cousin, if you want. Whereas the Borrelia, it would be the kind of suave, cool,
sophisticated,
very intelligent, sophisticated cousin who keeps getting basically tarred by the same brush as the simple guy. And that is a really good analogy, because when I first started looking at it, you're thinking, how's this possible? But Borrelia, it can evade detection, it can arm itself, it can live within other parasites, which means it's symbiotic. There's a parasitic worm that invades the brain and is thought to possibly trigger MS. And there's been a lot of studies done on it. Now, in one patient in particular, after the patient passed away, they dissected the brain and they found this worm. And inside the worm was live Borrelia. Borrelia was living inside the worm. And you're reading this going, surely no. And I constantly, every day I find myself being sceptical about a lot of this. But then the more you look into it, the more evidence is there.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, you can't deny it.
No, definitely not. It's just more support really and more evidence.
Yeah.
So with regards to your supplementation then, have you noticed any difference in your health or in your vitality?
No.
No.
The one thing I would say is everything I'm doing, and it's very hard to tell, but I'm hoping that it's keeping things a bit slowing down progression, because the first year and a half, especially that first 15 months of misdiagnosis, it came on so fast. It was literally every week I was going, "Hey man, you know what? Why can't I do that? I could do it fine last week."
Mm-hmm.
But as I noticed now that although things are getting a little bit more difficult, I can still do everything I could do a year and a half ago. You know, although I can't walk as far, but I can still walk.
Mm-hmm.
I get tired quickly, whereas I never before. Again, I think that's more to do with the fact that the cells aren't getting energised. But the supplement I just started taking is supposed to help with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's called there's one called AKG, and the other one's GABA. And I don't remember what they actually, it's not to get confused with gabapentin.
Yeah.
So GABA, GABA, is a neurotransmitter supplement.
Right.
It's supposed to improve neurotransmitter function.
Mm-hmm.
And AKG, it has arginine in it.
Right.
I don't remember the rest of it.
It's an amino acid, isn't it?
That is an amino acid. And that is supposed to energise the cell.
Mm-hmm.
So I've only been on it for about 10 days.
Right.
So it's been beginning to take a while to kick in.
Yeah.
But I take that twice a day.
Mm-hmm. So obviously are you still in NHS care then? Are you still seeing sort of neurology or?
I've seen my neurologist April, I think. March or April. That was the first time in a year.
Right. And what are they saying about it then? Are they just doing a check-in with you, or are they giving you any sort of...
That's another story. So when I took all this information to my neurologist, and he told me he wasn't interested. I'm not interested in referring to infectious diseases, which is not what I wanted. I wanted him to take it on board and investigate it. But it's not going to happen. So I find a lot of people in the community, and there's quite a lot of us. There's Facebook groups, there's a lot of people getting connected through it's all social media, Instagram, TikTok, and all these places. I do TikTok videos as well, and I'm in the process of setting up a charity.
Right.
But the charity is not typical of MND. MND charities are all about helping people in the way of care.
Yeah.
Donating money to bigger charities like MND Association, which I don't agree with, because the wage structure alone they don't behave like a charity, if you ask me. So I don't do that. What I do is I raise money, and I use myself as a guinea pig. And when I find treatments or therapies that are potentially helpful, I'll use that money to go and do them. And at my own risk, really. I've done, I went to ayahuasca a year and a half ago.
Right, and how was that?
In Peru. That was an experience and a half. It was scary stuff. Very, very spiritual though, and it puts a lot of things into perspective afterwards. And I think I came back with a better mindset, more positive mindset. And the experience was great. You're in the Amazon, it's paradise.
Yeah.
Then June last year, this time last year I was just getting back from Mexico, and that was mesenchymal stem cell therapy. which again was supposed to help slow progression. I think it did, not by a huge amount, but I think it helped.
So what did that involve then? Was it just one treatment, or was it a series of treatments?
So over 5 days, you get two intravenous intravenous infusions of like vitamins and I forgot what they called it now. IV nutrition. So you get IV nutrition, and then the next day, and oxygen therapy, and then the next day you get your stem cell infusion. So you get it part intravenous and part intrathecal, which is into the spine, and you get a rest day on the Wednesday, and then you repeat it again. But it's expensive.
Can imagine it would be.
I was after converting it into pounds of £13,500. They're 13,400 and something.
And how many do they recommend that you have in order for it to be successful?
Every 6 months.
Jesus.
I don't have it. I done that in the hope that it would slow it down and buy me some time to do further research, which I did. Now I'm on a protocol to try and eradicate the infection. I'm looking at a couple of other treatments as well that could be helpful. One of them is quite risky. It's called hyperthermia, and they raise your body temperature to 47 degrees and hold you there for about 2 or 3 hours, and they basically induce a massive fever and kill the bacteria that way.
Yeah, I've just seen a video on that on YouTube, which was, I think it was a woman being interviewed on her sauna experience and how she believes in heating the body temperature up to help to basically sweat out the toxins, is what effectively saunas do anyway.
Oh, they definitely work.
But it really makes a lot of sense, like you're saying, because fever is the body's way of getting rid of these toxins.
That's right. And killing off parasites and bacteria.
Right. So what happens after that then?
I'm still looking on it because it's a lot of money.
So what do? They obviously heat the body temperature up then, and then
they heat it up. I think there's 2 or 3 therapies over the course of a week, but with chronic Borrelia, I think it's a minimum 2 weeks, and it could be as many as 4. So I could be away for a month, and if I'm away for a month, it's £40,000.
Right.
So it's again money I've not really got.
So what happens after they heat the body though? Do they cool it down again?
Yeah, they bring you back to normal, and
just
then
normal, right?
The next, I think you have a day off, and then the next day they do it again. I think it's 3 stages, but on that again, I'll need to confirm all that.
And whereabouts is that treatment?
The clinic that I've been looking at is St. George's in Bavaria, in Germany.
Oh wow!
They're the only ones that actually say they treat. They use this to treat Borrelia, but it's available in a lot of other countries. They just don't really advertise it. I was trying to find out if they do it in Turkey, it might be cheaper.
Come back with a new set of teeth.
I could deal with them. But if the protocol that I'm on isn't successful in eradicating the bacteria, then I'm going to look at hyperthermia. Because I do believe that the root cause of at least my ALS is the Borrelia infection. It seems to be the one factor that, everything I'm looking into, it keeps re-emerging.
Yeah, because it's the fact that it's come up as positive. It's, that it exists in your system. So were you given any, or obviously you've done that privately, but were you given any sort of antibiotic treatment to eradicate that?
No.
So
I contacted Alfred Miller, he's one of the doctors in America that done all the study into this. And he was successful in treating his daughter-in-law. And when I contacted him, I mentioned the antibiotic protocol, and he suggested the herbal protocol because it's less damaging.
So especially the gut as well.
Yeah. So I'm using a thing called Zenmen Tick Support, which I bought it from a company in the States, and I was on 4 a day, and then I started to notice that my progression, it was a week and a half ago, was noticeable. I couldn't function. It was so bad. I got up out of bed, I could barely stand up. I tried to prepare food and I couldn't even lift a cup. So I texted my brother and he came over and he's like, what's going on? I was like, I can't do it, I can't function. But over the course of 3 or 4 days, I emailed Alfred Miller and he told me to stop taking it. He's like, just come off it for a few days and see if it subsides. And I would say it did. I mean, obviously I'm still not right, but I'm actually not as bad as I was like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. It was the Tuesday I wasn't too bad, and then Saturday and a week past last, what day we on the day?
Thursday.
Maybe the fairies. Aye, so 2 weeks ago today, I went to Tesco, which is across the road, and I barely made it home. You know, I was really struggling. I shouldn't have went anyway, but I'm my worst enemy sometimes. And I wasn't worth a button Friday. Saturday was kind of so-so, and then I started noticing I had a bit more energy and I was a bit more mobile. And I was like, right, okay, so it's not progression. It must have been what they call a Herxheimer effect. Herxheimer effect is also called a die-off effect, which is where the bacteria is starting to, maybe not dying off completely, but it's starting to die off. But it's fighting back.
Yeah, so it's getting agitated.
And with the bacteria doing that, it's doing that inside your cells. And in turn it can make the ALS patients feel as if things are getting worse. So I stopped. I came off it for a week and I did notice a difference. So I'm back on it again. Started taking it again on Monday. So we'll see what happens. But it's going to be a long road. It's not a lot. I know I've spoken to people as well who they try this, and after 2 weeks they're going, don't see a difference. And I was like, well, you're there ALS for 2 weeks and yet nothing happened.
Exactly.
I mean, but you're ALS for 2 years, you can't function. You know, some people die in less time than that. So I know it's going to be a long road. It's going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And as much as I hate to admit it, it might not work.
That's it, but you need to try, and I think you need to try while you can, while you've got the
100%.
means to do that. So what's the plans then for the charity that you're saying? Is it constituted? Is it a kind of set up official charity? Or?
It's not set up yet. Just at the moment, it's just me fundraising. But it's called Me versus MND, which doesn't just mean me, it means anybody that's got it. I'll have a website up and running soon. There's a TikTok channel, Instagram set up. I can't remember if I set the Facebook page up. I might have. I'll need to check. But I'm going to try and get it out there and, you know, go viral, I suppose.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly add the links to this video just for people's information and resource. So
I'm going to be documenting everything I do, kind of like a blog. Obviously, the vlogs on TikTok, so there'll be a link to that. You'll be able to donate through the website instead of GoFundMe and Just Giving and stuff. Basically, so they don't get a commission.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to look at selling merch as well, so that I'm not just asking people for money.
Yeah, they're going to get something in return.
Aye. Yeah. So they could, donate. If they were going to donate 30 quid, I might not get the whole £30, but they'll get something in return for that. So I think that's a better way of doing things rather than just saying, would you like to donate?
Yeah, but I think probably for a cause such as that, a lot of people would donate freely, because you never know, and you never know who it might affect in your life as well.
Exactly. The mainstream medical fraternity, doctors and scientists, aren't researching this.
But there's probably no money invested in it, though, in order to research it from a mainstream perspective.
There's millions invested, in my opinion, and again, my opinion doesn't really count for a lot. But I think it's all going in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm. Obviously with the funding, though, it depends on what kind of outcome they want it to have. Yeah.
Well, it's all being diverted towards trying to develop drugs.
Yeah.
Or repurpose existing drugs.
Yeah.
But so by trying to repurpose existing drugs, they're calling it the SMART trial, MND SMART trial. I call it the MND not so smart trial because none of them have been successful. So you're taking people with a fast progressive neurodegenerative illness and getting them to volunteer to take these drugs. And I've spoken to several people, well, probably 20 or 30, who have all done it.
Right.
Down south and up here. And they were all really excited. It's like, I'm going to get on this trial, I'm going to see a difference, it's going to be great. Most of them within a short period of time, the trial's pulled because it's not effective. And then these poor people are getting depressed about it. They're down. Mm-hmm. It's like I thought I was on the right track, and now it's been, the rug's been swept out from under me, and you're just like, so I haven't done it. Yeah. I won't sign up to them. There's 3 trials at the moment worldwide. One of them's in America, a drug called Prime C. And I'm saying it's a drug, it's a combination therapy.
Right.
Which does definitely slow progression. I don't know what the mechanism is, but it does work. Because everybody who's been put on it is noticing a big difference. So, but again, it's been held up. You would think with those kind of results it would be fast-tracked, and it's not.
No. And especially when time is of the essence as well.
Exactly. So all the people that were on the trial, they're not going to get it. And it's kind of pre-approved but not approved. So you can, if you know the right people, you could get it off book. Right. But only in America. There's 2 at the moment, one called Coya 302, one called SPG 302. One comes from Coya Therapeutics, and the other one comes from a company called Spinogenics. And both of those drugs are designed to rebuild broken connections.
Say again, sorry?
Rebuild the broken connections between the motor neuron, the nerve and the muscle, and basically regenerate it. And the trial's being held in Australia at the moment for SPG 302, and it's shown ridiculous amounts of promise. People are actually showing improvement. They're, I wouldn't say getting better, but if their walking is badly affected, their walking's a little bit better. If they maybe couldn't hold a cup, and now they can hold a cup.
Wow.
But that's just about to go into stage 2, stage 3 trials.
Right.
So you're still looking at 2-3 years, maybe longer, probably longer. So the people that are sitting waiting on the results, and most of them aren't going to make it.
Yeah.
They're not going to see it. I think instead of relying on the medical, and it is an industry, the industry coming up with a drug to treat it, change your diet, change your lifestyle. If you smoke, stop it. If you drink, stop it. Reduce toxicity, because all of that combined will help slow things down.
Yeah, because when you're not obviously in a clean environment, if you like, it can help to facilitate the feeding, can't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think people should try and do that anyway. I know we can sit here and say, oh, you should do this, you should do that, but I think you're coming from experience of how you used to be to where you are now, and the fact that you've had to introduce these clean eating protocols and herbal supplements and tinctures and things.
I was your typical single guy, to the point where I was pretty much single by choice. You know, I done what I wanted, went where I wanted. You know, I'd go snowboarding for a week and not come back for a month, as long as I had the money.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite funny, but an old girlfriend of mine was kind of on me to settle down, and I came back for a snowboard trip and bought a new jet ski. That's the kind of stuff I used to do, and I was just happy living life. But also my diet was maybe not disgustingly bad, but it wasn't great. You know, I quite enjoyed a drink. I never took drugs, never smoked. I hate smoking. But I could have been a lot cleaner living. And for all that, I was fairly fit. Although I was very, very, very fit when I was younger, being a fighter and then a coach. But probably I'm 49, so through my 40s, I wasn't unfit. I wasn't massively overweight. I was, you know, carrying a little bit, but very strong, you know, kind of stocky, and I wasn't unhealthy until 3 years ago. You know, 3 years in September it will be. So we're on 20 months. Oh, sorry, that's 2 years. 30 months. And that's if it was that. It could be longer.
So what is your sort of plans then for your future?
Stay alive. Sorry. I know I need to stop doing that. I do it all the time. I get friends of mine saying, how you doing, mate? And I'm like, try to stay alive. But
do you know what?
I think it's funny because I see the look in their face and I'm just like, shouldn't have said that.
I know, but you can say it. That's the thing. It's if you're saying it, then other people can accept that because you've got every right to say it.
How you doing?
Even
Not
if it's a joke.
Yet.
So what's the message then? What kind of message would you give to people who are maybe experiencing symptoms like that, or people that have maybe just been diagnosed?
I'm actually in touch with quite a lot of people at the moment. One guy who I don't really remember him. I remember the group, but we were all we weren't mates, but we knew each other. And he contacted me a little while ago. He's just been diagnosed. He's quite local in Glasgow. And I think he's the same age as me. But still, he doesn't really have any major issues at the moment. This seat keeps moving. So then there's another few people, a couple in America, again, all newly diagnosed. There's a few people I've spoke to are waiting on diagnosis. But the process is that although they've been told it's suspected, and they've been getting investigated for like 3-6 months, and the doctors are basically waiting. Different areas as well. It's not all the same doctor, but their doctors are all waiting to see how it progresses, and then they'll try and diagnose them.
Right.
Which that's something that the medical fraternity need to change. Yeah. They really need to change it, because I was misdiagnosed for 15 months, which in my opinion, that I had 15 months of not researching this. I might have been able to find something that would have slowed it down to the extent where I wouldn't be in the state I'm in right now.
Mm-hmm. So would you encourage then other people to research and to be more stringent then with their doctors about...
Definitely do your own research. Your doctors won't help you because they can't. Yeah. And despite what they might tell you, they're supposed to be the experts on this. What they know about motor neuron disease in general isn't very much. They don't know what causes it, other than there's a couple of genetic mutations that are probable causes. And even then, that's not 100%. You know, it's things like SOD1 and C9. But the sporadic cases, which account for 90% or over 90% of people diagnosed, they simply don't know. And there's a lot of speculation on whether it's environmental, bacterial, viral. And the way I've been looking at it for the last probably, I'd say about 9 months, is when meningitis was first discovered and doctors didn't know what it was. They didn't know what caused it. And they were looking at it as this disease that's killing people. And we need to find out what it is. And whoever came up with the theory that is it bacterial or is it viral, and then it turned out to be both. You know, and that's the kind of thing, because at that point, I've not looked in it in depth, but I've brushed over it. And it was, people were being ridiculed on about the idea of it being bacterial or viral. It was like, no, this is a serious disease. We need to, it can't be a bacteria or it can't be a virus. And it turned out to be either or. Yeah. You know, so why environmental factors, possibly. You know, high levels of toxicity probably contributing to it. But what's actually triggering it, what's causing it.
Yeah, because everyone undergoes sort of toxic environments and lifestyle,
exactly.
You know,
most
factors.
people in the Western world.
Yeah, so what triggers some and others are not triggered. That's the kind of, that's the main question really, isn't it? You wonder why.
Well, I think that's where it makes sense that this intelligent bacteria, which is capable of passing the blood-brain barrier, is capable of invading the brain, spinal column, or the spinal cord, and the nervous system, and living in there. And while it's living in there, it's wreaking havoc. Absolutely. It's killing your cells. Yep. It's killing your brain tissue very, very slowly. But, you know, but the minute you start telling a doctor who's supposed to know better, they just simply don't want to hear it.
Yeah, you're dismissed.
It's almost like, you know, you're my patient, what do you know? Well, I don't know for a fact. But in my eyes, I'm the person with this disease. I'm the person that's got to find the answer.
Yeah, because you need to live with it.
Yeah.
Or effectively not live with it.
Well, you need to live with it and then eventually you die from it.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, and I don't really... At the moment, I'm pretty determined to see 60, let alone 50. Yeah.
Good, that's inspiring. So I'll leave the question in there. I'll follow along in your progress and your journey, and we'll put links as well in the video just for people that want to donate and that maybe want to follow you as well. You can have a listen to TikTok and you'll hear me. I do TikToks from my own couch as well, so I can talk a bit better. Yeah. Right, that's I'm sorry. Man. I'm sorry. That's all right. Thank you very much for coming along today, and I hope it's helped some people at least. Pleasure.